Oh, I'm so strong. I'm just kidding. I already bought it. It's an empty box. I had to get something for B-roll. So this is my 43-inch Toshiba LED TV. Now back in 2005, this TV was awesome. It was full 1080p and I liked it so much that I didn't even take the plastic wrap off of the bezels. It was super thin at the time and I always thought that 1080p was all I needed. But then one day, one of my friends told me there's this new type of TV coming out called 4K TVs. And I was like, no, I don't think anybody's ever gonna use 4K. But just for kicks, one day I went on eBay and I searched for 4K TVs. And then in comes this, the 55-inch Changhong 4K TV. Now, if you've never heard of that brand, that's okay because I didn't either. But at the time in 2009, when I bought this TV, it was the cheapest 4K TV on eBay. I think it was just $400 or $500. And I brought it home and I showed all my friends or family for about the first week or two. And I used to think that all content played in 4K on a 4K TV. But little did I know, it actually was all 1080p because the source wasn't a 4K source. So for the longest time, even up until 2020 this year, I thought I was getting 4K content on this TV. I had a Chromecast Ultra plugged into the back, and it was plugged into the 4K HDMI slot. But little did I know, it wasn't HDMI 2.1, so it didn't have enough bandwidth to support 4K streaming. So even though I was paying for 4K on Netflix, and I thought I was watching 4K on YouTube, I wasn't, and it was all 1080p. But I didn't know any better until one day, one of my friends with his fancy OLED TV came over and said, look at that backlight blotching. And I was like, what's backlight blotching? What are you talking about? And he showed me when the screen turned black, all those white blotches on the LCD panel. And so then I asked him, isn't that normal? Don't all TVs have that? And he was like, oh no TVs have that nowadays, especially not the OLEDs. So I was like, what's an OLED? That must be a really expensive TV. And this is coming from me, someone that doesn't want to spend over a couple $100 on a TV. But then I got this TV, which is the 65-inch TCL Roku Smart TV, also in 4K. And this was my first smart TV, so I thought the features of Wi-Fi connectivity was pretty cool. And finally, I would get that little 4K icon on Netflix. So I was really happy. I was actually getting content in 4K. And I think this TV is probably one of the best valued LED TVs out there. It's not OLED, but it's a great LED TV. And I started using it for a couple of years. And then this year, the same friend came over. And as I had this mounted in my studio, he said, look at that scene in the background. And I think it was a movie with some stars or something in the sky. And he's like, you can't actually see all of the stars. And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, you can see all the stars. And he's like, no, on my OLED TV, you can see so many more stars because each pixel can turn on and off individually. And I was like, isn't that how these LED TV works? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. So he goes into this whole rant about why OLEDs are so good. And I was like, this TV was 600 or 700 Canadian dollars and it's 65 inches. Like this, in my opinion, is an amazing TV and is exactly where I think TV pricing should be at, $600 to $700. But then he showed me his OLED TV. And I asked him how much it was. And he said, it's like $3,000, $4,000. Like, oh no, I'm never gonna spend that much money on an OLED TV. Like, that's such a waste of money. And then, oh, I'm so strong. Okay, let me explain. So what happened is I actually went to the electronics store to buy this, which is the Sonos Arc soundbar, because I wanted to experience Dolby Atmos surround sound. But then the guy sold me on this, which is the LG 65-inch GX OLED 4K smart TV. And I regret it. Honestly, I didn't go in to buy a TV. Honestly, I feel like that's how most of these TVs are sold, is when you're at the store and you compare LCD to LED to QLED, and then, oh man, the OLED, they get you. That's how they get you. So they got me. I got this TV. I do regret it, but because I have it, I'm going to use it to its fullest, and I wanted to share my experiences with you on the differences between this OLED and all my other LCD LED TVs that I just talked about. And after using all of these TVs for quite some time, I've had this for a couple of weeks now, I wanted to share how noticeable the differences are and if it's worth it for you if you're considering buying an OLED TV. So the first thing I want to talk about is price. And price is really important because all of us value money. And if you don't value money, get this TV. It's the best TV out there. But for the rest of us that value money, we have to consider price. Now, this TV was about 4,000 or 4,500 Canadian dollars. And the CX or the C10 is about $1,000 less. So it's at 3,500 Canadian dollars. Both of these price points are it just blows my mind how expensive that is for a TV. Now, this is coming from me, a person that doesn't want to spend more than $500 to $700 on a TV. The person that searches eBay for the cheapest 4K TV and that lived with a 1080p TV for, most of my life. So for me, this is a really big chunk of change to spend on a TV. And if you think about it, you can buy 7 TCL 65-inch Roku TVs for the price of this. I could literally fill this whole wall and half of that wall behind you with TVs for the price of this one TV. Obviously, nobody will need to do that, but just think about that. That blows my mind. Anyways, price is one thing. So is this worth it for the price? No, it's not. And number 2 is image quality. So we buy OLEDs because all the pixels can be turned on and off individually. And that's very important because if you're looking at a scene like the galaxy, the stars, or something that's really white and really black, the reason why this is better and it's able to display all those small details is because it can turn off one pixel and make it completely black, and turn on the pixel next to it and make it completely white to portray a 1 pixel or 2 pixel star. But in a normal LCD or LED, what it does is it tries to portray both of those images, but it can't, so it goes from white to a gradient, kind of like white, gray, dark gray to black. So that all happens, in like a nanometer or something, but if you really look at it, you'll be able to see that it's not pure white and pure black in the next pixel. You see all that gradient in between. Now, we're just being really picky with like first world problems here, but if you're comparing TVs, that's kind of what you look for, and that's the biggest advantage of OLED. Another thing with OLED is because it can turn off all the pixels, if you turn off all the lights in this room and I showed a pure black background on this TV, it would not emit any light. And that's important because in some scenes in movies, if you have a really black scene or a really dark scene and it's nighttime and you're trying to look at somebody's face at night, it displays that a lot better because it can turn off the pixels where it's supposed to be pitch black, and it can emit very light pixels, so like barely visible pixels to portray faces and all other objects on the screen. So that's one thing I noticed is if you're watching a lot of videos that have really dark scenes or scenes that go from really dark to really bright back to really dark, like dark night and then explosion and then back into a dark scene, then you'll notice a difference with this TV. But other than that, you won't notice a huge difference. Honestly, for the average consumer, between a normal LED or LCD TV to this OLED TV, you're not going to notice a huge difference unless you're looking at them side by side. So the last thing I want to talk about is the user interface of this TV. And this comes with a really nice remote that can act as a pointer. So you just shake it around a little bit and this pointer comes up on the screen and you can face anywhere. It's not infrared, so you can face anywhere and the accelerometer just knows where you're facing. So the LG interface, I would say, is one of the best. It's better than Samsung, it's better than my Roku TVs or any other TV that I've tried. So if that's important to you, and that was pretty important to me, this is a great TV to have. It has YouTube, it has Netflix, it has all the apps that you need. You can download more. You can even control a lot of your smart home devices on here, like your cameras and things like that. So the processor on this TV is really fast. Nothing lags. It has some really nice AI upscaling functionalities that upscale 1080p up to 4K, but we are not going to talk about the nitty-gritties. And there's a lot of other videos on YouTube that'll talk about all the exact hardware components of this TV. But just from an average tech guy like myself, going from my LED and LCD TV to this, there wasn't a huge difference. And I regret buying this. I wouldn't buy it again if I could go back and redo all of that. So I lied. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and that's that this TV makes a great party trick. So if you're the type that likes to show off your tech, and I've showed this off to a lot of friends and family, that's one of the really cool things that it does well, is if you put it into picture mode, or if you're playing some really nice, Galaxy videos, or some really nice OLED videos that you can find on YouTube, 4K videos, whatever, it really blows my mind, and it blows everybody else's mind too, how amazing the contrast ratio of this is, and just how black the blacks are and how white the whites are. But it only works a couple of times. You can only do that party trick so many times. And is it worth that $4,500 price tag to do this party trick? No, it's not. Do I regret buying this? I regret buying this. If I could redo all of it, what would I get? I would probably get a larger TV if I had to. I would probably just get like a 75-inch or 85-inch normal LCD LED TV, or maybe the Samsung QLED TV. I think the differences between a real OLED and the Samsung QLED is not going to be really different, and all the professionals out there are going to prove me wrong. And yes, there are nitty-gritty differences, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're only here to talk about what it feels like from an average consumer's perspective, and if you should get it. So that was my review on the unit. If you found it informative, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps me out a lot. If you have any questions about this TV or any of the other TVs I talked about today, please let me know in the comment section down below, or if you'd like me to do any comparison videos between any of them. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.